The defending champions Oklahoma City Thunder have secured the 12th pick in this year's generational draft. The draft exists to help bad teams get better, which means champions should be left picking at the bottom. But it was Steph Curry who accidentally gifted OKC with this top 12 pick. And the scary part is OKC isn't even satisfied with number 12. They have plans to move up to the top. The OKC Thunder entered the 2026 season with the following picks. A Houston Rockets top 4 protected first rounder from the 2019 Russell Westbrook trade. Protected means as long as Houston doesn't land in the top 4, that pick belonged to OKC. A second top 4 protected Sixers pick, a piece from the 2020 Al Horford deal. The infamous pick from the Paul George trade that still haunts the Clippers to this day, a Utah Jazz top 8 protected pick from the Derek Favors trade in 2021. On top of all that, their own first and second round picks. But as the 2026 season unfolded, Oklahoma City's draft picture changed a lot. The Utah pick would not be going to Oklahoma because the Jazz finished with one of the worst records in the league, so their pick was locked inside the top 8. The Houston pick was traded to Philadelphia for Jared McCain at the 2026 deadline. But with Philadelphia finishing with a winning record and clinching a playoff spot, their pick fell to 17th, and that was heading to Oklahoma City. As for their own picks, the 30th goes to Dallas, and the 60th to Washington, both owed from previous deals. But OKC does hold on to the 37th pick from Dallas. That leaves us with the Clippers pick, which completely depended on how LA would perform this season. If the Clippers become one of the worst teams in the league, OKC would be gifted with the first pick, so they had to make sure to win games. With an aging roster and little reason for optimism, nobody was expecting miracles from the Clippers. Early on, they did nothing to change that perception either. By December, they were sitting at 8-21, and it was starting to look like Oklahoma City was going to walk away with a lottery pick. But before the All-Star game, they traded away Harden and Zubac in exchange for Benedict Mathurin and Darius Garland, making the roster younger. Surprisingly, they began putting up a fight, finishing the season with a 42-40 record. They fought their way into the play-in, so a lottery pick for OKC was no longer a guarantee if they make the playoffs. Standing in their way were another aging team, led by a 37-year-old Steph Curry who had come off a major injury few games back. But LA had just beaten them in their final regular season meeting, so they knew exactly what they had to do to. Clippers started off strong and looked completely in control of the game. They held Steph to just 8 points at halftime. LA might just push through into the playoffs, but you don't hold Steph Curry to 8 points and think the job is done.
The Warriors, the only team with the losing record in the play-in. Curry, 3! Whack, foul, to the line he goes!
Like, not an efficient game, started 1 of 5. But he just sticks with it.
And the defense of Golden State, and Curry on the move again. Into Dunn, by Dunn, up in town! Steph Curry! Curry again. Collins is there. It's a 3. Another one! Oh, he's a machine! It's Steph Curry. Dunn is on it. Bumped Curry. 3.
And with that shot, Steph had officially handed the OKC Thunder with a top 12 pick in a loaded draft. But this wasn't the first time a contender found themselves holding a lottery pick. The last time this happened was in 2017. Led by Isaiah Thomas, the Boston Celtics went into that season with genuine belief. They outperformed the defending champions in Cleveland, claiming the top seed in the East. Boston also made a deep playoff run. But it was Cleveland waiting for them in the conference finals, and on May 28th, Cleveland ended Boston's run in 5 games. But just 3 weeks later, on June 22nd, the Celtics walked into the NBA draft holding the 3rd overall pick.
the Boston Celtics select Jason Tatum from Duke University.
Boston weren't the only lucky ones. Back in 2003, the Detroit Pistons had put together a strong season, securing the first seed with 50 wins. They pushed deep into the playoffs, making it all the way to the conference finals. But on May 24th, the New Jersey Nets swept them clean off the floor. A month later, on June 26th, Detroit walked into the NBA draft holding the second overall pick, in what many consider the greatest draft class in NBA history. After Cleveland selected LeBron with the first pick, future Hall of Famers like Dwayne Wade, Carmelo Anthony, and Chris Bosh were all waiting. But Detroit chose Darko Milicic, a man who would go on to average 6 points and 4 rebounds for his career, and was out of the league in less than 10 years. But these were only first-seeded teams. What if I told you that there were teams that had just won an NBA title and they went into the draft with a top pick? In 1986, the Boston Celtics were dominant, winning 67 games in the regular season. On June 8th, Boston Celtics beat the Houston Rockets in 6 games. This was their 4th championship in the last decade. 9 days later, on June 17th, that same Boston team went into the draft with the second pick. A roster already built around prime Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, and Robert Parrish were about to add another talented rookie.
The Boston Celtics select Len Bias of the University of Maryland. There he is, Len Bias.
Len Bias was a forward so gifted he was already outplaying Michael Jordan in college. But we never got the chance to see that play out on an NBA court. In less than 48 hours after being drafted, Len Bias died of cardiac arrest resulting from a drug overdose. This remains as one of the greatest what-ifs in history. But surprisingly, Boston isn't even the luckiest team to pull off a championship and a top pick in the same year. That title belongs to their greatest rival. The 1982 Los Angeles Lakers were a force of nature. With winning 57 games in the regular season, they marched to the finals and beat the Philadelphia 76ers in 6 games. This was their second title in 3 years. Yet just 3 weeks after hoisting the trophy, it was the Lakers standing at the draft with the first pick. A roster already featuring Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Jamal Wilkes were about to add another future Hall of Famer into this team. The rich always get richer. James Worthy would prove vital for LA as they go on to win 3 more championships in the years that followed. On 4 different occasions, a championship-level team ended up with a top 3 pick in a few weeks. And that's not even counting the teams who won the lottery against all odds. All these contenders getting the top pick looks illegal. But just like Oklahoma City, all of them earned their picks through smart, calculated trades. But behind the Lakers' first pick was a trade so horrendous that the league was forced to ban that franchise from making any trades. Meet Ted Stepien, the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers, a man so notorious that he would put Nico Harrison to shame. But Ted had a problem. He believed he had a rare gift for predicting basketball talent. In a span of just a single year in 1980, he traded away 5 consecutive first-round picks from 1982 all the way up till 1986, without receiving anything of significance in return. So in the summer of 1981, the NBA placed an unprecedented ban on trades for the Cavaliers, in which they would be required to receive league approval before making any moves. But the ripple effect of Ted's trades were already set in motion, with the biggest fumble being the Lakers drafting James Worthy in '82 with the first pick. His other assets turned out to be the 11th pick in 1983, 4th pick in 1984, 8th pick in 1985, and the 7th pick in 1986. Additionally, Dennis Rodman was also one of Cleveland's picks, resulting from a trade in 1982 with the Pistons. Ted made a series of such catastrophic trades for the Cavaliers that his fans ran him out of town. When it came time to sell the franchise, the league had to sweeten the deal by awarding Cleveland 4 first-round picks just to make the team hopeful enough for someone to buy it. On May 9, 1983, the nightmare was finally over. Gordon Gund and George Gund purchased the Cleveland Cavaliers for $20 million. Fans exhaled because Ted Stepien had come dangerously close to moving the team to Toronto. The Guns kept them in Cleveland and got to work immediately. After just 28 wins in the Guns' first full season in 1984, the team made the playoffs the very next year. By the late 80s, the Cavs became a powerhouse with stars like Mark Price and Brad Daugherty, reaching the Eastern Conference Finals in 1992.
For the town, it's been terrific because the fans have had, as you well know, a bad time of it lately, as has the franchise, and the fans really deserve this, and I'm excited. Most of all, I'm excited for them.
The team's state improved significantly under Gordon Gunn's ownership, evolving from a bankrupt franchise to a consistent playoff contender. But Gordon Gund rebuilt the entire franchise without ever being able to watch it.
Gordon has suffered now for 33 years with retinitis pigmentosa. He is blind and has lost his eyesight.
Because he couldn't see the games, Gund developed unique methods to manage the franchise and stay connected to the sport.
I listened to our radio announcer, Joe Tate, and he sort of paints a picture for me, which is quite vivid.
He literally would sit out in the crowd during the games, and he'd have headphones on, listening to Joe Tate call the games on the radio. And every conversation I had to him, I was just, really amazed at what he was able to accomplish with having a disability like that.
I learned it when I lost my sight, that you deal with the things you can affect, not spend a lot of time on the things that you can't.
But along with saving the Cavs, Gordon Gund's greatest contribution to Cleveland was drafting LeBron James. Although drafting LeBron seems obvious now, back in 2003 it wasn't nearly as straightforward. Gordon shut down any trade talks early on, and he publicly declared that they would be drafting LeBron James with the first pick.
If there's one player in the league that a team would have called and said you can have, would you have traded this pick?
There is no player, Jim, for whom we would have traded this pick. There isn't a whole team. We're very excited to have this player, and we believe he's going to give this marketplace a great future of exciting basketball.
That's saying an awful lot, Gordon.
It is, but that's how I feel. Otherwise, if I didn't, I'd probably be run out of town.
All right, Gordon. These are going to go on sale, Mike Tirico.
Out of all of this, the NBA came to the conclusion that this should never happen again. So they created the Stepien rule, a regulation that prevents any team from trading away consecutive future first-round picks or dealing picks more than 7 years into the future. But all these teams followed a simple pattern. Lakers sent a vet and a pick to the Cavs in 1980 and acquired their 1982 first pick. Boston pulled a similar move with the Seattle Supersonics back in 1984. Detroit had the foresight to make a trade in 1997 from the newly formed Vancouver Grizzlies by dealing an aging Otis Thorpe. Boston drafted Jason Tatum, with a pick that came from the infamous Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce trade with the Brooklyn Nets. And the Thunder are still reaping benefits from the Paul George trade 7 years later. This is currently what OKC's 2026 draft capital looks like. But missing out on a lottery pick hasn't slowed them down. With the 2026 draft widely regarded as one of the deepest in recent memory, the Thunder have a plan. League insiders indicate that the Thunder are expected to aggressively trade up in the draft. Even Brian Windhorst believes it's coming because, frankly, this is what OKC always does. In 2024, the Thunder made 3 separate trades on draft night just to land A.J. Mitchell. They sent Lindy Waters to Golden State for the 52nd pick, flipped that pick and cash to Portland for 40, and then moved that selection to New York to finally get Mitchell at 38. In 2023, they traded up 2 2 spots with Dallas specifically to make sure Case and Wallace didn't slip away. In 2022, the Thunder were reportedly worried that other teams like Hawks and Grizzlies were interested in Jalen Williams, so 3 first-round picks were traded specifically to draft Ousmane Dieng at number 11, just to clear the path and secure Williams. Although OKC doesn't have a top 3 pick like the previous contenders, a top pick alone means nothing without the right draft class around it. Take the Atlanta Hawks in 2024. They won the draft lottery with just 3% odds. Hawks drafted Zachary Rizachet with the first pick, the consensus top prospect. And yet he has looked nothing like a first overall pick, and his future in Atlanta is already in question. A great pick in the wrong class is a tragedy. History has proven that the truly iconic drafts produced generational talent throughout. The 2026 draft is being talked about in that same breath. And in a class that loaded, the 12th pick carries a lot more weight than it normally would. Jalen Williams, OKC's second best player, was a 12th pick. And that draft was nowhere near as deep as what 2026 is shaping up to be. Even their MVP was an 11th pick. Sam Presti is the most intelligent man in basketball right now. OKC has been historically great in scouting talent that fits their system, unlike some other teams. Most of their team is filled with second-round picks and undrafted players who have proved to be extremely vital for Oklahoma City. Even in this playoffs, we see guys like Mitchell and Joe torching other teams.
Mitchell hoists and hits a 3. A.J. Mitchell has been sensational throughout this series. Finds Wallace. Penetrate, kick, Joe, 4-3, back-to-back.
But here's the thing about Sam Presti. The Clippers trade isn't even his best work. That goes all the way back to 2008, right after being hired. He made one single trade that accidentally built the Thunder as we know them today. I've done a deep dive on this, and that video is on your screen right now.